Hey, I'm Michelle with Michelle Loves Books. Today is the Day 2 challenge, which is the Spread the Love challenge. Now, I decided to take a little bit of a different approach, and instead of talking about how much I love the Twilight series, because I've done that a lot on my channel already so far, I'm going to take some negative comments and basically open up a discussion about them. So why is it always Twilight for me? I feel like I personally defend this series so much because I feel like the series gets so much hate and I really don't think that it deserves this. It's really an incredible phenomenon in my opinion, from my perspective, from the rise and fall of this fandom. From the tryhards to the people who just love to hate it. I have some theories on why people just love to hate it. It could possibly be stemmed from the rebel persona, where they just can't get on the bandwagon with anything that's overhyped. You know the type that refuses to support anything that is really popular or mainstream. And you know, back in the day when I was in high school, I totally went there with the type of music that I liked. It could also be stemmed from jealousy, because regular women can't find men who are perfect and tell them how much they love them all the time, who actually make them important to them. Maybe they just have really bad luck finding men who treat them like crap. There are actually men out there who treat their women like princesses. You just have to keep looking and not tolerate the crap. Just saying. A little bit of relationship advice there from me. These people might feel like these kinds of men really don't exist, but I'll give you a little pointer. They actually do exist. And of course, this is a story. It's a fantasy. Fantasies are all about like what we want out of life, not necessarily what's reality. Now, I'm contemplating putting this bit in there because it does make this video quite a bit longer, but I feel like it was necessary, so we're gonna go with it. Here's how I see the history of the popular opinion of Twilight. First, the movie came out. And yes, I say first the movie came out. I mean, obviously the books came out first. I say that first the movies came out because many people didn't even realize that it was a book. First movie came out, then people realized it was a series of books and it just exploded. It was all anyone was talking about and you saw them everywhere. People describe this series as the gateway drug to reading. No, I really can't see how that's a problem. It also made some people want to pick up some classics. I also can't see how that's a problem. Personally, I don't care how tragically horrible a book is. If it gets you to start reading, get on that train. So after the conclusion of all the movies, when they were done making the movies, Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson were continuing on a romantic relationship. This happens a lot actually with actors. It's not that surprising. They spent 5+ years working closely together with an on-screen romantic relationship. Well, the fans are the ones who are the obsessive stalkers, living vicariously through this couple who are in their 20s. Kristen Stewart was underage when they first started filming Twilight, and even when they started New Moon, I've listened to a lot of interviews which made filming times difficult because child work labor laws, like that just tells you they're really young. So it's really not what's wrong with the books, the actors, the movie, the author. It's the insane troll logic of the fans. All of a sudden all these rumors came out about them getting married and having a baby, and for God's sakes, thank God they didn't. I mean, they're too young to be having children. Basically, the fans were playing out Twilight in real life. There was just so much wrong with this. So Kristen Stewart goes and fools around with the producer of that movie that she was in, breaking up Robert Pattinson's and Kristen Stewart's relationship. Now, there's a lot going on with this that is so wrong. But first of all, you have no idea what kind of boyfriend Rob Pattinson was. He is not Edward Cullen. Robert Pattinson is Robert Pattinson. He might be a skeezy boyfriend. You don't know. All I'm saying is he's not a fucking saint. He's a human being. And so is Kristen Stewart. People got so incredibly upset about this. I was looking for like clips to put in here about the crazy fans. I didn't find exactly what I was looking for, so I'm not gonna put it in here. But there's this one video of this girl absolutely breaking down crying. I really felt sorry for Kristen Stewart because all of a sudden she became this horrible villain. And how many times between other celebrities has this shit happened? She's not the only one to cheat. Plus, she's a normal person. In normal, regular relationships, how many people have you known, or maybe you've done it yourself, not judging, not my business, honestly, but so many people do this in regular relationships. They cheat. It's part of life. It sucks. I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying it happens. Why is she front page news for like a year of being like this horrible person? She really did not deserve that treatment. Plus, like I said, it's not my business and it's nobody else's business what's going on in her relationship. And you're only getting a teeny tiny piece of it. You have no idea what goes on behind closed doors. Honestly, I could go on for ages. We're gonna move on. So let's get into the negative opinions and the discussion topics. One of the first main opinions is vampires aren't supposed to be glittery. No, traditional vampires and all the movies and TV shows. No, they're not. But that's why I love it, and that's why so many other people loved it. It's just really refreshing to have a new take on this supernatural creature. Some people act as if it's breaking the law to change this, but it's supernatural to begin with. Bram Stoker, okay, he wrote the first book that described a vampire, right? I mean, maybe there was something else before that. All I know, I wanted to look into that, but all I know is Bram Stoker is one of the first people to write about a vampire. People, literature, artists, musicians, they build off of what has already been put out there. We are looking at, I don't know when that book came out, a dozen years since that book came out, and they have evolved from each author who writes their own type of vampire into the world that they want to create. I mean, it's okay. I also personally loved how Stephenie Meyer actually wrote in traditional vampires basically as if it was a myth towards real vampires in her universe. And personally, I like Stephenie Meyer's vampires than any of the other traditional vampires. I just think that they make a lot more sense. I mean, they're supposed to be these like supernatural, strong, fast, powerful, super hearing, but then they can die from a splinter. Just saying. I really like that they are completely impervious and they don't even need to sleep, they don't need to breathe, all of those things. Rochelle Mead also has a little bit different take on vampires in her series Vampire Academy, and she really gets into the vampire heritage. The reason I'm throwing this series into this is because she doesn't get any hate. Another complaint is that Bella is a weak protagonist. Well, actually, she's a pretty normal, awkward human being. She's meant to be relatable. Stephenie Meyer said that. She wanted to write a relatable character. And I don't know about you, but I like to read about a bunch of different types of characters. I would get quite bored if I kept reading the same strong, badass bitch character in every story. Bella is also being compared to vampires, which enhances her weakness. If she were compared to a bunch of humans in her class, she'd be quite normal. It has been addressed that we all love our strong female protagonists who have sass and kick-ass. But let's be real, how many of these beloved characters turn into ninjas overnight? You don't hear anyone hating on that. Bella is boring. Actually, again, she's meant to be a universally relatable character. She is normal. She is not any more boring than you and I. That was Stephenie Meyer's purpose, was to write a character that could be any one of us. She wanted to give them this fantastical world where they could feel special, like maybe this could happen to them. We're not getting it twisted. I know it's a book. All the fans who love the series know that this is a fantasy. A lot of people have said in like those hate videos, if these girls feel like that's real, and I don't think that that is true. Something else I didn't actually put in my notes and I wasn't going to talk about, but I decided I'm going to, is a lot of people say, oh, she walks into this new school and all the boys want her, and that's just ridiculous. It's not in the book, but it is in the movie where Jessica Stanley says, oh, it's like you're the shiny new toy. And I think that that pretty much nailed it. Bella does address the fact that nobody looked at her the same when she lived in Phoenix. They did see her go through all of her awkward stages. When she goes to the school, she's new, she's mysterious. Obviously, she's a pretty girl. We're gonna get to that later. I don't think it's 100% unrealistic. Maybe the way it was played out, like everyone's clamoring to ask her for a date, that could just be the writing, because if you're looking for something incredibly realistic, boys are way too shy to ask a girl on a date. I think that the author was just making sure that it was clear that people found her attractive. Why does Edward like her? She's plain and boring. So it's explained why he likes her. She's the only person he hasn't been able to read her thoughts. That might seem kind of lame and kind of like an out, like, oh, so she's the only one you can get with? But it's more than that. There's something about her that attracted him to her. When he decides to start talking to her, he's so used to reading people's thoughts that he knows how they're going to react, so he doesn't understand her reactions. But it is still understandable that there's always something. It could be the lamest thing in the world, but there's something that is attracted you to whoever you're dating. You meet someone, they're nice to you, they talk to you, they probably are cute, because let's face it, you don't go talk to ugly people. I hate to be an asshole like that, but it's true. There's something about that person that you find attractive. So that's what starts you up talking to them. You don't have to have these deep thoughts. Those happen with time, and that is reality. On the whole mind reading thing. Imagine if your boyfriend or your husband could hear every thought that ever went through your head. head. How could you have a relationship? It would be so embarrassing, I'd want to go hide under a rock. They do not need to know every freaking thought that goes stomping through your brain. Now here we get into Bella's looks. Everyone says she's plain, she's not pretty. Why does Edward, who's his glamazon, think that she's pretty? Well, as the reader, you only see her from her own perspective of herself. She does not understand why Edward likes her because she feels that she is plain and not pretty. We all feel that about ourselves. We are all our very own worst critic. And also, what does it have to say about the fans who think that that's all that matters? Not everyone has to be a supermodel to be considered attractive. Have you ever heard that term, beauty is in the eye of the beholder? Jacob loving Renesmee is gross. Again, this was explained, and I can understand why a lot of people feel that this is strange and it's weird, but how many times does it happen in books? This video is not about stomping on people's opinions. I just don't necessarily feel that Twilight deserves as much hate as it gets. So, if you missed it, the relationship between Jacob and Renesmee is not romantic. When a wolf, it's totally slipping my mind, bonds, it's gonna drive me crazy that I can't think of what it's called. Anyways, y'all know what I'm talking about. Jacob explains this to Bella. When a wolf bonds with somebody, they are to them whatever they need, whether it be a friend, whether it be a mentor. It's not romantic all the time. They just have an unbreakable connection. So when it comes to Jacob and Renesmee, when Renesmee is first born, obviously it is not romantic. He does not see her that way. He'd do anything to protect him. And that's what it's like. Eventually, when Renesmee is an adult, then it might develop into a romantic relationship. Also, Jacob was not the first one that this happened to in the Quileutes. This happened to, I think, his cousin or something like that. They all thought it was kind of weird too, so it wasn't like this normal thing, like they all felt it was a little bit weird. Next one is lengthy, repetitive descriptions. I personally didn't feel that they were too lengthy. I can see why people felt that they were a little bit repetitive. However, how many other books do you love that do that? Crooked Smile. That is like a YA thing. It makes like the love interest that much cuter if he's got like the crooked smile. Again, I'm not completely disagreeing that it didn't get a little bit repetitive. My mom, when she first read it, she said, how many times is she gonna say hissed? Is he always hissing at her? And I thought that that was really funny, and I would just like, it made me laugh, and I was like, okay, you do kind of have a point. So many other books do this. I can't even tell you. They all do this. None of them get the hate that Stephenie Meyer gets. It's not entirely deserved. Why does everyone love Edward? He's a creepy stalker. He's not the only YA character that has ever like stalked their love interest. Stalk is such a hard, harsh word. Basically, he's just looking out for her, watching her. He's contemplating this deep desire within himself. Like he doesn't want to stay away from her. Probably him going into her bedroom was a little overly. I'll give it to you there. How many other swoon-worthy characters have you been totally in love with that have gotten a little stalkery from time to time? Grade school crush. How many times have you sit in class staring at his ass? And whatever weirder things have happened, get over it. Another thing regarding swooning over a book character, between books, movies, TV, music, hello Backstreet Boys, hung their posters all over your walls, don't be a hypocrite. That's what makes a fandom so much fun. The love, having that character that you're just like, oh my god, I love that character. Or you like to daydream about yourself in their world. I can't tell you how many times I've done this over Twilight. Fandoms are just so much fun because it just enhances like all the feels and all the love for something that you just found so much joy in. Edward does not deserve the hate. Now we're kind of getting into the actors. Kristen Stewart is a bad actor. And since we're talking about Twilight, no, she's not. She played Bella from the book perfectly. I honestly thought that people who said that she's a poor actress didn't read the books. There was a lot of weird silence moments, I guess, in the movie, but in the book, didn't say a lot, but there was a lot going on in her head. That's just the way it is when you take a book and make it into a movie. Have you ever tried acting? I actually have. When I was younger, my mom was like obsessed with like Hollywood and actors and reads all the tabloids about their drama. I think that's probably why I hate it so much. She used to take me to like acting classes, auditions and things like that. And let's just say I'm just terrible at it. I suck at acting. It's fucking hard. I have mad respect for all actors because it is fucking hard. And I love to see production process behind the scenes things. Actors have to stand for hours doing retake after retake, being freezing cold and having to act like they're warm. That happened in New Moon. With the exception of New Moon, I will give that to them, that in New Moon all the actors seemed quite a bit stiffer. I think this is really a product of how the fandom exploded in a year. It was such a short time, and all these actors were really young, and I just think that they were just overwhelmed. They went from being nobody you would ever recognize on the street to being like chased down by fans and paparazzi, and so I honestly feel pretty bad for the actors. Also, because of their age, I just feel like people are expecting them to just be like, oh, well, that's what you signed up for. I just don't think someone that young can really put it into the correct, healthy perspective and know how to balance it correctly. I think that that takes time and understanding, like, and how to protect yourself and things like that. Another one is Kristen Stewart is ugly. This one, it almost makes me laugh because immediately I think, well, you're jealous. First of all, that's just fucking rude. Who says that? Would you just say that to some random person walking across the street? Hey, you're ugly. No, because it's fucking rude. Whoever has said that is an idiot and needs to take a good look in the mirror themselves. I personally think Kristen Stewart is gorgeous. I love Kristen Stewart. I think she is so pretty. I think she has the prettiest eyes. I always loved her really long hair, but man, can she rock a shaved head. Like, she looks fucking amazing. If you can shave your head and still look ultra feminine, that's a badass. That wraps up my love of Twilight. I just wanted to challenge some of these unpopular opinions, especially with the ugly comment. I just wanted to shame who's ever said that, because seriously, that is so unjustified. That wraps up this video. I love Twilight. I hope you enjoyed that, and I cannot wait to see everyone else's videos on how they're spreading their love.